this video, we're joining Mike Murata back on site where he's sharing one tool to help your team consider, select, and implement assistive technology. A copy of the Modified SETT Framework is available under the Supporting Documents section on this steps page. It may be helpful for your team to have a copy as he explains each piece, but it is 11 pages, so you may want to print it front and back or share a couple copies in the group. Don't get hung up on the fact that it's 11 pages. Mike will explain each one a bit more. And you don't complete all 11 pages in one sitting. Remember, this is a process. Okay, here's Mike. Enjoy.
SETT Framework, developed by Zabala, focuses our attention when we're starting to think about consideration into the areas that are important. We talk about the student. Who is that person? What are their skills? What are their abilities? What are their likes and dislikes? Tell me about that kid. Tell me about them. What are the environments they're using technology in potentially? Where are they? Not just English, not just history. Where are they? What is about that environment that could be a support for them in their learning experience? Tasks. What is the student need to accomplish? What are you trying to get them to do? What do they need to do? What's being asked of them in that environment? And then finally, the last T is really where everybody wants to start. This is where they want to be. They want to start talking about tools. People want to start there. The great thing about the SETT framework and what makes it so powerful is it forces you to wait till the end to talk about tools. You don't know the tools you need until you understand what your need is. But a lot of times people come at this backwards. I have a Chromebook. How am I going to get that to work for somebody? I have an iPad. There you go. Now tell me what I should do with it. All right, well, that's the wrong way to look at this. So think about how many times that happens, where a tool gets determined before a need is identified. And then people are confused why the tool didn't work. Well, the tool didn't work because you did the square peg round hole effect. I have this thing and it's going to work for you. It's going to work for you and it's going to work for you. I don't know what your needs are, but it's going to work for you because I have it. And so I think people look at this backwards. When we think about this idea, here's some of the things that the SETT framework will help us do. Boy, this sure sounds like consideration right here. Sure sounds like our consideration process. Promotes team building for consensus, provides for the collection of data. We start to see links between assessment and intervention become clear because of our being able to identify where the student's at. Looking at roles and responsibility of the team members helps with implementation of tech, gives us an array of options from low to high tech. That sounds pretty great. That sounds like something we could be able to go back to a team and say, I know we checked the box off, but we have a process in place that did all of these things that got us to that box. So page 1 is just the background information, so look at that, we've already done one page. Good job, congratulations. Page 2 is just the example page for the SETT. When you think about it, this is what a traditional SETT form might look like. 4 columns, student, environment, tasks, tools. And then you would have each member of your team fill this out. There's a blank form. We have the 4 columns, right, of all the SETT forms. But she's also divided it in half. Each column. The top is what we know about the student. So tell me the things you know about them. But the bottom half of that column is what we need to know. This is taking the participation model, which is traditionally an AAC kind of support and model that people use for seeing how effective a communicator might be. But I think it's really interesting in the context of the SETT, how this fits nicely. Tell me the content area that the student is working in, and tell me their participation levels in each of these areas. Educationally, how are they integrated into the experience, so their physical integration, their social participation, and then finally their independence with technology. And then as we look through, this also part of the participation model, what are the barriers to successful tech integration? This is page 5. Are there barriers within opportunity to use technology? Are there policy barriers, practice? Are there knowledge barriers? Is there some skill or attitude that is causing a barrier to us being successful? Along the top, in each of the shaded boxes, you write down a function you need that technology to help you with. A function, or even one of the abilities that might have shown up in the student column. So maybe some of the functions here are, I need a tool that will help with reading comprehension, will provide auditory support, will give me opportunities to help with brainstorming. These become kind of your functions, or even sometimes your tasks that people have suggested show up on that top. On the left-hand side, on that first column, you break down all of your tool choices. I have these couple apps that I know voice typing, I know this, I know that. You just put all these things on here. And then it becomes just a box check. I have a tool, so I have voice typing here, and it meets this need, this need, this need. And then you just go across and you start matching its features. That's what we're doing. We're feature matching. I have needs and abilities, and I have features of tools. I match them together. That's why I talk about this idea. There is no best tool. That best tool is going to be different for every student. It's going to be what tool is best for that student. And that comes from the abilities they have matching to the features of those tools. I will say to teams often that there is no cookbook for AT, unfortunately. It'd be great if there was. Just flip to page 52 and just solve that problem. That'd be awesome. But there's not. And a lot of times, AT becomes more art than science. It becomes this kind of navigating through a system and working through it. It's why I can't say you should always trial 3 things. We can't say that. I don't know. I don't know what the situation is. I don't know what the student's situation is. I don't know what the environments will support. I don't know what kind of tasks we need to accomplish. It's just one thing. Maybe it's 2. Maybe it's 8. I don't know. But you have to think about that as a group and decide what it is that we want to test, what we want to try. These are always coming from the last step of the set, right? The last step informs the next step. So we come up with our short list. Is it available? So this starts to look at, if we have technology everywhere, it's available across the system, great. I check that off. And I say, great, we have this tool already. Let's try that. Maybe it's something that I have to get through special ed. Maybe it's something that the tech department has to acquire and get for me, whatever it might be. But it's available, but it's not everywhere. There's another extra step in there in order to get it. And then finally, A, is anything that I have to reach out beyond the walls of my school to get? Do I go to a lending center? Do I reach out to a vendor? Do we have to acquire something? Whatever it might be, that is something I have to go find. How long should a trial period be? I don't know. I don't know. That's something you have to think about as a group, as a team. This is why we do this as a team. As a team, you know that student. You know the situation. You know the environments they're in. You know their expertise with technology, their comfort level with navigating through something new. You know that. How long should the trial be? I don't know. Is it 2 weeks? Okay. Is it 4 weeks? Okay. I don't know. But I don't think there's a wrong answer there, which is good. It shouldn't be like 2 days. How about that? It shouldn't be that. But anything beyond that, have that conversation with your team and decide that. And that's also going to change student to student and tool to tool. So look at this as a trial period plan. What's the goal? What's the tool we're trying? Where are we trying it? How long are we trying it? These are the things. We might talk about them, but we need to write them down too so that our team can be held to that timeline. All the members of our team. These are the pieces that make our trials work or not work. And this is the part where I see people just kind of not do anything. They'll come up with a tool, they'll come up with the classroom they want to use it, and they'll come up with the dates. Great, great. How are we going to know if that's effective? How are we going to collect data? Or what are we going to collect as far as data? Well, here you go. Here's data collection. It's not that complex of a sheet, and it's also pretty broad, so you might need to change it a bit. You might need to add something to it, but it gives you the basic idea of what it is we're looking to collect information on. The task that we're doing for data collection, how often the data will be collected. And so now there it is, it lives up at the top. Who put this together for us? So if somebody has a question, they can reach back out to us. And then there's my data collection scale. The date, the tool, what do I rate it? How often was it done, if that was necessary? Did it work? Did it work? Yes or no? So there are two questions to ask at the end. The one piece that form does not address that you would need to figure out, well, there might be a couple, but one is what is your 1 to 5 scale? Right? That starts to be something you need to figure out, and that scale may change from tool to tool. Roles and responsibilities. Who's doing what? You can't do everything. You might want to do everything. You might think it's the only way everything's going to get done is because you have to do everything. But no, that's the whole point of being a team. Who's going to do the parts of this? Who's going to be responsible for certain things? Thinking about the tasks that need to happen. It's a tally sheet. Who's going to keep track of where it is? Who's going to bring the results and correlate them with everything else that we have? That could be 2 different jobs. That doesn't have to be the same person. So thinking about the tasks and what they are. These are our responsibilities. And then who on the team has that role to be in charge of that? If I look at this roles and responsibilities list, and everything's in the AT staff category, oh, I might have a problem with that. I'm going to have an issue with this roles and responsibilities list. So look, are they spread out? Does everyone have equal responsibilities here? But things are only going to work if everybody else knows what they are and why they're there. So now this last sheet is it's a planning sheet that we can share with the rest of the team and say, when you're in this content area and doing these certain activities, in a certain kind of grouping, try this accommodation. And it's basically a cheat sheet that we can pass to everyone. And say, for this student, here's the strategies and tools we have in place. This is really nice. We talk about this idea of promoting self-advocacy. Can they have this somewhere? We've started looking at ways we can put this on students, either their devices. Can we have it laminated for them that they carry around with them? Can it be loaded in their Google Drive somewhere if they know how to get to it? Like, depending on that student and where they're at, how do we get this to them? So that any student, if someone says, do you use something in history? They say, well, I don't know, but I have this, let me look. Or here, why don't you look? And bring people back into that and point them in the right direction.